Hi, good morning, Abda. Thanks for joining us here on Chiselbury TV, if we can call it that. We're here to talk about your new upcoming book, That Which May Destroy You. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get on to the book?
Yeah, morning, Stuart. Yes, well, I am actually a lawyer by profession, and I decided to start writing about 10 years ago, predominantly because I think, my writing journey started a little bit before that. I got into writing as a way of dealing with the trauma of losing my mum in my teens. That's a different story. I think that's what initially got me sort of into writing. And then it was when I was looking at kind of the sort of fiction out there, I just felt like there was a bit of a gap in terms of some of the characters and themes and people that I'd met through like my career, through my charitable work. So that sort of got me into the writing. And yeah, so That Which May Destroy You is my third novel now. And I'm really excited that, it's a really strong courtroom thriller. And a lot of my sort of legal background is in there, I guess, but also a lot of the other work that I've done with women kind of reflects in the book.
It shines through, actually. I mean, I think obviously it starts literally, right at the beginning, our versus, we know
Yes.
that this is actually a proper legal thing. And I was actually discussing with some lawyers the other day, and they were interested in too. So, I mean, I think, and with the, obviously, it touches on this very important theme of gaslighting. Is this something that's of your personal interest or,
Well, I think when I first, well, I've been in the legal industry for 3 decades now. So when I first started, I did a lot of injunctions. I did a lot of work with domestic violence victims, family work, and this kind of abuse was there, but there was no name for it at that time. So whilst I was in contact with this kind of behavior, I didn't, there wasn't really a name that you could give it. And as I've gone through my career and the last few decades, I've come to know that there is a name for this kind of psychological, emotional, mental abuse, and that is gaslighting. Um, so my interest came through some of the historic work, legal work that I've done, but also through the women I've worked with in through the charities, whether it's through charity or whether it's through some of my creative projects. I'm also a creative practitioner. I do Arts Council funded projects in the community, and I've worked with women in prison. I've worked with women in domestic violence refuges and in other settings, and I've come to realise that gaslighting is actually a huge problem. And the other side of that coin is that whilst it is a huge problem and there are quite a lot of victims of gaslighting, it's also a term that's very misunderstood. And it's also a
yeah.
term that's very misused. So you've got two sides. So there's kind of like, it's a buzzword. There's like more awareness of the word. People are talking about gaslighting more, but it's also quite frustrating because people are not understanding gaslighting properly. So I think that was a reason why I decided to write this novel that looks at gaslighting in all its intricacies, in minutiae detail, if you like, through a court case. And also, there was a real life case. I don't know if the viewers will know of the Sally Challen case a few years back. Sally Challen was convicted for murdering her husband. Um, there is a really good BBC documentary about it if people want to watch it. And at the time, she was convicted on the charge of murder and sent to prison. And while she was in prison, the new offence of coercive and controlling behaviour became law. And then her lawyers appealed her sentence and it was reduced to manslaughter. And then she was released from prison because she'd already done the time. So I
Yeah.
found that a really interesting case. This woman was quite meek and mild mannered. One day suddenly picked up a hammer and killed her husband, just like that. And it transpired that there'd been years and years, decades of like mental abuse, psychological abuse that she'd suffered. It was really terrible. But it's a form of abuse that's very surreptitious. It's insidious. It's Oh, there we go. That's real life recording there for you. That's happened to me on many occasions where
Right.
the phone's gone
We'll
off.
continue. Sorry about that.
This is your phone, not mine, Stuart. So yeah, so it's one of those forms of abuse that actually quite often the victim is the last person to understand that they are suffering from gaslighting.
Yeah, and I think that shines through in your book. And she thinks, did I do that? Did I really do that? How did I do that? You know, and as you
Yeah.
say, it starts minorly, but you know, with the interaction with the, you know, the friends and all the rest of it, that I think it's sort of something that almost grows on her in prison, or not in the court
Yes.
case, isn't
When
it?
she's
That she's
reflecting.
actually really.
Yeah. And there's another aspect in this book that um, people may or may not have heard of, but something called love bombing. And I think this definitely happens in the courtship phase when Miriam is courting Zaf. You know, when they're dating, there's definitely that element of love bombing going on, you know, and
Absolutely completely blows her away, isn't it? You
yes,
know,
yes,
and
she
he offers
completely falls
everything.
in love, you know, with this
Yeah.
person that you know she thinks is the perfect human being for her. You know, she feels valued and loved, she feels cherished, she feels adored, she feels all those things that we all want to feel when we're in a relationship. And then afterwards, you know, after that phase when they're married, then the you know the behavior starts, the controlling behavior. Um, and really, the thing with gaslighting is there's three different elements to gaslighting. There has to be a repetitive pattern of behavior. So that's the first thing. You know, a one-off comment doesn't constitute gaslighting,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
continually doing that, yes. The context is important. So the relationship within a marriage, you know, that context is important. And also what is being denied, you know, her recollections of facts are being denied, her feelings are being denied. So you know, as readers will find out, you know, it's the way the novel is structured between the present tense in the courtroom and the witnesses giving quite often really damning evidence, and then you've got your flashbacks to the past tense when you are seeing glimpses of the marriage and you're seeing this behavior unfold. And sometimes you know before the judge knows and before the jury knows, and you know there's little bits that are being drip fed to you. But you know, it's just to paint this whole picture of um, how destructive, actually, how utterly destructive something like gaslighting can be.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the other things, obviously, I mean, apart from the actual book itself, which is really thrilling and with a couple of great twists at the end, is obviously what I think we were discussing earlier. It is actually, in a way, it's a crossover book because here is this book set in, you know, one of the oldest British institutions of a sort of the High Court, and it's within the British
The Crown
Asian
Court, Crown
community.
Court.
It's Crown
Yeah,
Court. Sorry,
yeah, yeah,
I throw myself on the court for the mercy of the court. But you know what I mean. But it is
yeah.
the court system. But it is
Yes,
this whole. It is a very much a topical book about sort of modern Britain. I think,
yes,
which
yes.
actually, you know, which also I think shines through.
Yeah, it's this. So this is. I mean, these characters are called Miriam and Zaf, but they could be called anything, and they could be from any community, and they
Yeah,
could be from any place. Because honestly, this what happens in this relationship happens in many relationships, and this form of abuse happens in all communities, in all settings. So you know, it's
yeah,
yes. When you
exactly.
read the
And I think
book,
that's
you know they are of South Asian heritage. It's set in Birmingham, which is, you know, Britain's second city. But you know, everything is, it's not so much about the background of the people, even so much where it's set. It's really about the issue of gaslighting. It's really about how this affects somebody's life.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it is set within, it is pacey, you know, and it is a page turner, but it's quite literary in a lot of ways as well. There's a lot of looking into and examining the subject in a thoughtful way, but there's also a lot of, like you said, there's quite a few twists and turns as well.
And it's a real sit up all night. I mean, I can remember when I got the actual, you know, the final manuscript, and I was looking forward to it. And I was actually on holiday, and I did sit up and read it, you know, right through the night, which I thought, well, you know, I thought this actually really merits a great, you know, really good thing.
Yeah, well, it's just gone out to the reviewers as we're speaking, just this last week, and the first two reviewers both finished it in a day. One of the reviewers messaged me on privately on Twitter, and she said, "I'm not going to get any work done today because all I'm doing is reading this book. I know the laundry is going to just sit there today because I could not put your book down." And the other reviewer said that well, he finished it in a few hours. I just don't know how, but I can't believe how fast he read it. So that is a real, that's music to your ears, isn't it? As a writer, that somebody
Absolutely,
could put your
absolutely.
book down. Yeah.
And I think, well, you know, with I think it's, you know, hopefully everyone else will agree with this, and it's out in just over a month.
Yes.
International Women's Day, 8th of March, and I think it's going to go really well, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks very much for bringing the book to me, and we're delighted to be working with you on getting it out there.
Yeah, really excited. Thank you for having the book and giving it a home. And I hope it finds its way to lots of people's homes now.
It deserves to. Abda, thanks very much for your time. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.